Alright, welcome back to another Art of War 3 replay. I'm your host, JEONG SINAH, and today we're going to be doing a 2v2 battle here. I'm going to be the green Confederate player, and my ally is going to be a blue Confederate player. They are a multi-time medalist who is rank 17. We're going to be facing off against two very strong players in this battle. One of them is a multi-time medalist with almost 20 medals, I believe. And the other player has their own medal as well, so we anticipate a very tough matchup. So let's go ahead and get into it. We see some early game action unfolding as the resistance side and Caldari, my ally, fight for that large container. Looks like we're getting a scout onto yellow. Yellow is already HQ3, has 5 supply centers, and is dropping on some infrastructure. Meanwhile, looks like red is still teching up. Looks like they're still HQ2 at this time. They got 5 supply centers. Meanwhile, on my end, I've got 7 supply centers out. Looks like Caldari's moving some forces onto the top of the map. Caldari's looks like is going to try an early game rush here. Red sees the rush here and is going to drop down to walls to try and stop the advance. Here comes some hammer tanks and assaults. This is a small attack force. Let's see how it plays out. And we can see that these buildings from red are incredibly tanky. Red is most likely on a common defense boost or an emergency measures boost. We can see that reinforcements are streaming in from the yellow player, and red is producing their own units to defend against this rush. So we can see a sniper tower has been finished from the red player. Looks like Caldari is doing a good job taking out some units here, but I don't think Caldari is going to be able to do any meaningful damage to the base. So Caldari is slowly losing some momentum here. Those assaults are steadily being picked off. Looks like Caldari is going to go ahead and try to retreat here. I tell Caldari to fall back at this point. They've only got a few hammer tanks, and that is just not going to cut it. The supply center does get cleaned up by Caldari, but it's going to cost him a few tanks. So Caldari is going to retreat. Meanwhile, I'm producing a ground army. I'm going to secure that large resource container in the center there. Looks like there's a dragonfly from the yellow player on top of the plateau there, getting a nice visual onto Caldari's forces. So I'm moving my cyclone over. Let's see if we can get a scout on the yellow player. Looks like there's a porcupine coming in. I'm going to go ahead and push that porcupine back. Meanwhile, Caldari trying to make another advance, but it looks like yellow's got a pretty large ground army here at the front entrance. So Caldari is not going to be able to push through at this time. So I tell Caldari that they need to wait. There's just not enough ground troops to push. Caldari is still going to try and push though. I don't think that's enough. The hammer tanks and infantry looks like yellow's trying to push them back, and looks like Caldari is going to call in for reinforcements. So this is an attack that's a little bit earlier than I planned for. Here comes my fire assaults. They're going to start to attack those infantry. And my hammer tanks are going to move in and take out the armor. There goes a porcupine. We can see that both red and yellow are trying to pour forces into the area. And so we're launching a combined assault now onto the resistance side. And we're going to go ahead and move our hammer tanks onto the red player. So we can see at the bottom there, the Jaguar tanks from yellow were deployed and I didn't want to fight them. So we're going to see if we can dish out some damage against the red player. It looks like red is up to 6 supply centers. They are HQ3 at this time and are starting to drop some more production structures and defensive buildings down just to deal with our forces. I've got some hammer tanks in the back of the base there while Caldari's forces are in the front. We got the assault and hammer tanks starting to reinforce, but looks like there's Jaguars and Grenadiers coming in for the yellow player trying to reinforce. And looks like my hammer tank numbers are slowly dwindling. Looks like we were to clean up some buildings there within the red player's base, but again, I'm not sure we're going to be able to get that much more in the base here. We're trying to get that special vehicle factory. Meanwhile, I'm just rebuilding my army count here at the center area of the map there, just to maintain some map control. So it looks like infantry are now moving in. I'm going to throw on a gold vehicle attack boost. Try to boost the power of my hammers and my typhoons there. Again, I'm not ready to launch an assault. Looks like yellow is going to try to take the initiative here though. We see Grenadiers, Snipers, and Jaguars is a pretty strong combination. I got some fire assaults. We can see some of my fire assaults are actually getting killed mid-air. This is part of a new update from the company Gear Games, where fire assaults can actually be damaged in the air by bullets and rifles. So fire assaults are a little bit more vulnerable now. We can see that that's coming into play here. I've lost a decent amount of my ground troops here, and looks like red and yellow are starting to pile on with the forces, so I'm going to need to regroup. And Caldari is able to see that I need to fall back, so I'm going to go ahead and move my ground troops back. So I've got fire assaults and hammer tanks. I don't have anything to deal with the dragonflies. Look at how many snipers there are. That's a ton of snipers. I'm going to throw on an infantry attack boost, trying to get those fire assaults to get a little extra boost in damage. We see that the Jaguar tank there got cleaned up, and the Porcupine's going to get cleaned up as well. Here comes a Vertex from Caldari. Caldari has been able to get some aviation on the battlefield, and it looks like we're going to be able to push back the yellow player. Yellow does not have enough forces to push. Meanwhile, red's launching an attack here on the side of my base, but Caldari's coming in with some Vertex to dish out some damage. So it looks like a Dragonfly is going to go down. There's only a few riflemen here and a couple Dragonflies, so if I take care of this assault pretty quickly, should be no problem. A couple fire assaults in the mix there are going to take care of those riflemen, and I'm going to be able to clean up that attack. And we can see here that there's a resource container that I should be able to try and pick up there. So I'm going to try to move some ground troops over there. Caldari, meanwhile, trying to deny scouting, so I'm going to be able to swipe that container there. Here comes the resistance side, making a push onto the large resource container. Caldari does not have enough forces at this time. They've only got 3 Zeus tanks. Meanwhile, looks like there's another contingent here being launched. We see a Typhoon, some infantry, and some hammer tanks. This is not going to be able to enough to punch through. We can see there's a gun tower. Looks like the Vertex are going to hit the gun tower though, and that gun tower is going to get cleaned up. We see a Hawk coming in for the red player, and looks like that Hawk is going to provide some nice aviation support for the red side. Looks like those ground troops from Caldari were getting cleaned up. Now I'm trying to launch another ground attack. We see hammers and fire assaults combined here, and let's see how this pans out. Yellow has a pretty large ground army here. We see grenadiers, snipers, and jaguar tanks. We see some dragonflies in the mix as well, and my forces are just getting shredded here. This is not looking good for us. Looks like Caldari's trying to move some forces in. He's got those Zeus tanks, and we see red is trying to counter with grenadiers, dragonflies, and armadillos. Supply center is going to go down, but again, I don't think this attack's going to pan out. So we're going to regroup at the large resource container. Looks like the resistance side is going to try and make a push onto the resource container. Can we capture the resources before we get overtaken? So the Vertex are providing cover for our troops here. We're going to be able to swipe 2 of those containers for our side, but we're going to have to leave that 3rd container. The resistance side is pushing too aggressively onto our side. So at this point, not looking great on our side here. We can see that my Typhoon is about to get cleaned up there. The resistance side may try to make a push here, so I'm ready with my hammers and fire assaults at the side to reinforce. So here we go now. I'm going to send in my troops to reinforce using a gold attack boost here. Let's see how this plays out. We got grenadiers, snipers, and a lot of heavy armor in the area. Vertex coming in to reinforce as well. Looks like we were able to clean up a ton of their forces, but I've lost practically all of my fire assaults in the process. Vertex are dishing out some good damage though. There is no anti-air from the resistance side. The resistance side is going to have to pull back. These Vertex dishing some really nice damage against those Jaguar tanks. Jaguar tanks are absolutely defenseless against the Vertex, and both Jaguar tanks are going to get cleaned up. So it looks like my ally is going to tech up now. Meanwhile, I've been HQ4 already for some time now. Now I'm just trying to replenish my army now. We can see that my ally is going for a vehicle build. I've got a Cyclone over there trying to scout. He is getting it cleaned up though by the resistance side. Vertex coming in. They're going to scout that large container, and my ally is telling me to move onto the container, so I'm going to move some troops onto the container, and I tell my ally to defend the area. And so it looks like Caldari was able to get a Cyclone over the cliff top there on the red side, and we can see red's base. Here comes another assault from the yellow player. Yellow making a big push once again. I've got a pretty large army to defend with, though. We see a lot of snipers, porcupines, and jaguar tanks mixed together against my hammers, fire assaults, and typhoons. And I'm just trying to reinforce and rebuild my army at this time here. But it looks like we got some hawks flying overhead. Oh, and they're gonna get shot down by the vertex. Very nice interception from Caldari. Looks like yellow is gonna have to retreat. They have lost essentially their entire ground army. Looks like red is starting to rebuild a ground army. We see some porcupines, armadillos, and infantry in the mix there. So I'm going for hammers, fire assaults, and this time I'm gonna mix in some shield generators. Looks like a couple airfields there. Caldari's gonna try and get some more aviation on the battlefield here. Looks like Caldari's launching a pretty big assault here. We see some Zeus tanks, torrents, and a couple typhoons here. So let's see how that plays out. I'm gonna launch an assault at the same time. So we're gonna put double pressure onto the resistance side. So I'm gonna put pressure on the front while Caldari puts pressure on the back of the map here. So we're kind of sandwiching the red player. Let's see if they can handle the pressure. My shield generator being mismicroed slightly. I gotta bring it closer to my ground troops there. So my hammer tank's now moving in. Looks like the forces on the resistance side from the red player are starting to pour onto that plateau to defend. Meanwhile, on my side, I am doing a good job cleaning up a large portion of the yellow player's army. Unfortunately, looks like Caldari is taking some heavy casualties and has lost essentially most of their army. So I'm going to move my hammer tanks now onto the red player. And this is our another attempt here to try and take out some critical infrastructure if we can. But look how much damage these buildings are absorbing. My hammer tanks are not doing that much damage at all to these buildings. We can see that red is still HQ3 at this time. They've gotten some production going for units. But again, I think that because we have the tech advantage on our side, that is going to come in handy. We're going to be able to take out this airfield here. Airfield is going to go down. The Vertex are trying to swipe some good hits on that Avia factory to deny aviation, but looks like a ton of the Vertex got shredded. All of the Vertex have gotten shredded. This is not looking good on our side. So we might need to change tactics here, potentially. We got ground troops moving in on the large container, hammers, fire assaults, trying to counter these infantry with the vehicles mixed in. So Dragonfly moving in as well. And it looks like we're winning the fight for the container, but I don't have anything to really counter that Dragonfly. I just have the Zeus tank for anti-air. So at this point, I'm going to move the Zeus tank forward. Here comes more Vertex from Caldari. Caldari providing some nice air support for the area. It's going to take out that Dragonfly. And I've got a shield generator moving in that's going to enhance the power of my ground troops in the area, just to keep them better supported. So these Vertex are really forcing the yellow player to retreat. So I'm going to be able to secure these extra resources. And I think I've transitioned my build at this point. I'm starting to go for Zeus production. Here comes some alligators, though. I did not prepare for this. I just lost a level 3 assault vehicle factory. I'm going to lose the Avia factory, but I don't care about the Avia factory. I do care about these assault vehicle factories, though. That's a lot of gators, and I don't have the firepower to counter. So I'm going to launch an assault now. I've got fire assaults, Zeus tanks, and the shield generators. Looks like my allies coming in, though, with some Zeus tanks to try and counter. Shield generator is going to activate. Needs to be microed a little bit better. I'm going to move it closer to my fire assaults. My fire assaults are getting cleaned up, though. I'm going to move the Zeus tanks further up, though. So now Zeus tanks are now at the front trying to dish out damage, while the shield generator supports them, keeps them alive for as long as possible. So I tell my ally I'm going to assault the front there, and I tell my ally to try and send some forces to help me out. So Zeus tanks slowly making the advance here. Looks like red is trying to clean up these torpedo platforms from my ally Caldari. More ground troops are pouring in from the red side, though. These Zeus tanks are dishing out good damage, but they are not going to hold out forever. That's a lot of grenadiers, jaguar tanks, and porcupines coming in. And now the shield generator has run out. These Zeus tanks are heavily outnumbered. They are not going to make it out alive, and they are going to get cleaned up by the resistance side. So I'm down to 30 command points worth of units, but here comes Caldari. Caldari's got some nice reinforcements. these Gators continuing to try and aggressively harass Caldari. Looks like they're going to take out a torpedo platform. Caldari is going to move a couple Vertex to a different airfield. Those Gators anti-air is dishing heavy damage against the Vertex. Meanwhile, our ground troops are moving up onto the yellow player. This is a very strong front here. So I'm going to flag the yellow player's base. That is going to be our target. We're going to launch a full assault now. It's going to be Zeus tanks against infantry, Jaguars, Porcupines, and the Dragonfly. My shield generator is going to run out, and those Grenadiers are maxed because they're dishing out so much damage. They're firing their grenades so quickly. But look at this, our Zeus tanks are just chewing through the defensive line from the yellow player. Yellow's under some heavy pressure. They need some help or it's going to be game over soon. Looks like Red's coming in with the reinforcements. We see a Jaguar tank rolling up. We got a couple Typhoons in the mix there for anti-air, and we've got a Torrent for some heavy fire support. I'm trying to stream in some more reinforcements to help out. A few more fire assaults in the mix there. Here comes the Hawks firing onto our ground troops here. I activate the shield generator, trying to keep our forces covered as best as possible in the rear. But it looks like our assault is running out of steam here. Caldari's going to tell me to fall back, and rolling down to a couple of shield generators and a couple Typhoons. That is not going to cut it. So we're going to go ahead and retreat here. In the meantime, I've been rebuilding my production infrastructure away from the water, and I'm trying to get some more factories out so I can increase my Zeus production. So those Hawks trying to do some harassment, but again, I got some Typhoons for defense, and that Hawk is going to go down. So at this point in the battle, we're going to try to transition fully into Zeus fire assaults and shield generators. I think that's going to be the combination we need to break the front. Looks like my ally is going to drop a bunker down just to enhance our defensive line. And look at that, we can see Yellow is starting to tech up from HQ3. It looks like Yellow's been fighting a lot of this battle on HQ3, which is really impressive. Meanwhile, I'm trying to get some more ground troops out, trying to get some Zeus tanks, fire assaults out. Looks like my ally is doing a similar build, trying to get more Zeus tanks out. Looks like I am max command points at this time, so I've got a pretty big ground army, and it looks like I wanted to launch an attack. Looks like my ally is going to join me, and here we go. Major engagement unfolding here. It's going to be fire assault, Zeus, Typhoons, Torrents, shield against this big defensive line from the resistance side. The resistance side has a really nice concave here, so we're kind of going the strategy of just trying to see if we can just punch straight through with the durability of our vehicles, and it looks like it's working out. We've got enough Zeus tanks in the mix and a shield generator to support that we've been able to break the defensive line. Here comes an attack from the red player though. Red's launching Jaguars, Grenadiers, and Porcupines. So Caldari's having to defend with the Vertex while our Zeus tanks launch the attack. We've got a few vehicles in the mix here trying to help out. It looks like these tanks have been cleaned up though. And it looks like Yellow is under pressure. We've got quite a few Zeus tanks at the yellow player's base. Is Red and Yellow going to have a response? Here comes Hawks from the red player. Seems like Red is running out of ground troops, hence having to use these Hawks for defense instead of sending Jaguar tanks. So the Hawks are dishing some good damage against our Zeus tanks here. But I don't know if it's going to be enough. We are slowly closing onto the yellow player. Yellow really doesn't have an army at this point. They just have a chameleon. I don't think that's going to cut it. We're starting to make our way onto the barracks. We don't know if this is going to be enough though. Can Yellow make the comeback? Last couple of Zeus tanks getting cleaned up there. Looks like my ally is going to flag my ground troops at the large resource container and is going to tell me to move up onto the yellow player. So we're going to move our ground troops onto the yellow player. Let's see what they have left to defend with. We've got Grenadiers, a chameleon, and I don't know if there's enough heavy armor in the mix though. We've got 3 shield generators, a lot of Zeus tanks, fire assaults, Vertex coming in for the air support. They're going to swipe a hit on the assault vehicle factory. Looks like they are low power. Yellow is in trouble. They need to have an answer from their ally. The assault vehicle factory is going to go down. Looks like the last bits of vehicles get cleaned up too. And it looks like our tanks are closing on the yellow player. What is yellow going to do at this point? Looks like red doesn't really have anything to respond with other than Hawks. And it looks like yellow is going to self-destruct their own base. Alright, that's pretty much good game. Hope you all enjoyed this action-packed battle. We will see you in the next one. Good luck with your battles.